When people say, what is religion all about? What is Christianity all about? The answer often is being right. If you look at religious people around the world, well, I'm right. Or being good, having the right answers, being part of a community. But how about coming to our senses? Awakening to reality, to how things really are, letting go of our confusions, our wrong perceptions. Last week we read the same story, and I'm going to read it again in a different translation. It's the story of a father who had two sons. One ran away, one stayed home. Both were lost. And I'm reading from Eugene Peterson's modern translation. Then Jesus said, "There once was a man who had two sons. The younger son said to his father, 'Father, I want right now what's coming to me.' So his father divided the property between them, both the younger and the older. It wasn't long before the younger son packed his bags and left for a distant country. There, undisciplined and dissipated, he wasted everything he had. After he'd gone through all his money, there was a bad famine all through that country, and he began to hurt. He signed on with a citizen there who assigned him to his field to slop the pigs. He was so hungry, he would have eaten the corn cobs and the pig slop, but no one would give him any. Then he came to his senses and said, 'All those farmhands working for my father sit down to 3 meals a day, and here I am starving to death. I'm going back to my father. I'll say to him, Father, I've sinned against God. I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son. Take me on as a hired hand.' And he got up and went home to his father. When he was still a long way off, his father saw him. His heart pounding, he ran out, embraced, and kissed the boy. The son started his speech, 'Father, I've sinned against God. I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son ever again.' But the father wasn't listening. He was calling to the servants, saying, 'Quick, bring a clean set of clothes and dress this boy. Put the family ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Then get a grain-fed heifer and roast it. We're going to feast. We're going to have a wonderful time. My son is here, given up for dead and now alive, given up for lost and now found.' And they began to have a wonderful time. All this time, his older son was out in the field. And when the day's work was done, he came in. As he approached the house, he heard the music and dancing. Calling over one of the houseboys, he asked what was going on. And the servant told him, 'Your brother came home. Your father has ordered a feast, barbecued beef, because he has him home safe and sound.' The older brother stalked off in an angry sulk and refused to join in. His father came out and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. The son said, 'Look how many years I've stayed here serving you, never giving you one amount of grief. But have you ever thrown a party for me and my friends? Then this son of yours who's thrown away your money on whores shows up and you go all out with a feast.' His father said, 'Son, you don't understand. You're with me all the time, and everything that is mine is yours. But this is a wonderful time, and we had to celebrate. This brother of yours was dead, and he's alive. He was lost, and now he's found.'" The turning point in that story is that moment when the younger son comes to his senses. For everything unfolds after that because of that. His older brother would have preferred that he stayed slopping the pigs and not come home. The father was delighted, would have been heartbroken had he not come. But it's this moment of coming to our senses that is the lesson, I think, for all of us. This experience of suddenly waking up to a different reality than what you think you're living. Perhaps you're in a place where everything seems dark and dismal and disappointing and disturbing, dystopian. And when we're in places like that, we don't even realize that we're there because that's what we think it is for everyone. It's like we're sleepwalking through life. And then a moment comes where we suddenly wake up. And we discover that it's actually light out and alive and lovely and worth loving and ultimately quite hopeful and promising. It's that moment in the Christmas Carol when Ebenezer Scrooge throws open the blinds on Christmas morning after a night of nightmares and discovers a child is born unto us, a new beginning. And if you remember the story, Scrooge does not spend a minute regretting his past or tallying up the failures or even remembering the life missed. That was the work of Christmas Eve. But on Christmas morning, he just starts to live fully, buying a goose, sending it to the people who work for him, and amazing them with this new person that he is. Least of all himself. He can't stop laughing. But then there's the other side of the story. Some of us might be in a place where we awaken from a real dark, a real dismal, a real disappointing and disturbing and dystopian reality. Destroying ourselves through our lifestyle. Allowing the thoughts of our minds to drag us down into dark places. Blaming everyone around us for what's wrong. Wondering why it didn't turn out the way we'd hoped. Watching the news and buying into the narrative of the world is a mess and there's nothing you can do about it. But then there come those times where you get an inkling that perhaps you're wrong. Maybe it's your doctor who tells you, you know you're killing yourself. Or it suddenly dawns on you that in fact you're the one to blame for a failed friendship. Or you turn off the TV and see that someone else is making a positive difference in the world. And you could too if you just get off the couch. You see, this moment of coming to our senses is what faith and the spiritual life is all about. Waking up out of everything that's not light and not love and not possible and without purpose and without hope. And seeing the vision that Jesus and the prophets paint of the kingdom of God, where there is light and love, even in the darkness, where there is possibility and purpose, even in the grave, where there is hope and courage, even when you're persecuted and cast out by your friends. It's about being willing to look clearly at yourself and the world around you and seeing how much of the bad stuff out there comes from in here. From our hearts, the fear and the hatred and the ugliness and the lies. The world is full of people who are living in this darkness, often in the name of religion. But Jesus calls for us to wake up, to come to our senses, and to dig in. There's two sons in the story. One who wakes up and the other who doesn't. One's far away and lived a life of mistakes. The other one's right outside the window and can't see the light. It's a strong story, inviting us wherever we are to come in and begin again.